All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for coming out today. My name is Kavya Bodapati. I'm a senior at the University of Pennsylvania. I will be chairing SPECPOL this year at ILMUNC, India, and I'm really excited to get to meet all of you and learn a little bit about you as well. I'm from New Jersey. I grew up there, but I spent a little bit of time in my childhood living in France, about 3 years. So that's kind of what got me really interested in kind of learning more about different cultures and kind of more about international affairs. And that's what brought me to Model UN. Um, so I'm a bio major and I'm a psychology minor. I'm pre-med, so I'm planning on going to med school sometime in the near future. Um, and I guess a fun fact about me is that I'm severely allergic to chickpeas. So that's going to be fun in India, always. Um, Also, just FYI about this webinar, it's going to be recorded, so if you have to leave at some point or if you want to come back and look at it later, um, it'll be posted, so don't worry about that. Um, so as I said before, I'm chairing SPECPOL this year, and SPECPOL stands for the Special Political and Decolonization Committee. Um, and so we have two really great topics, and I'm really excited about it, and I know that you can access the background guide now. So just to go over what the topics are, I'm sure you can see them all online. But topic A is territorial integrity of the former Soviet republics. Um, and I think that's really topical given the current Ukrainian situation that's been going on for the past year or so, a couple of years actually. Um, and I think that'll be really interesting to hear all of your thoughts and just kind of talk about it a little bit more in a formal setting. And then topic B is maritime disputes. I was really interested in this topic just because um, as a bio major, I kind of know a little bit more about this academically, and I was the chair of the International Maritime Organization last year um, at ILMUNC, which is the UPenn college conference that we hold in Philadelphia. Um, so I think this topic is really interesting, and I think there's a lot of things that we can talk about. Um, I know we could talk about a lot of boundary disputes, maybe even a little bit of whaling laws if you see that pertinent. Um, but I think that it'll be a really exciting committee overall. Um, I think that it's really important when preparing for committee that you kind of like look up current events topics just so that you have the most up-to-date information and you kind of are up to speed on recent progressions in the topics. Please let me know if you have any other questions right now. Feel free to use the chat feature. I've been posting a lot, so sorry about that. But yeah, no, if you have any questions at any time, I'll kind of keep checking it periodically. But I would love to be able to answer whatever I can during this webinar session. Just to go over logistics. Oh, I'm sorry. Apparently the chat feature is having a small issue, so if you want to ask any questions, just mail them in. And that will be to specpol@ilmuncindia.com, and I'll get those questions. So going back to logistics about position papers, the deadline to submit is November 20th. And for schools, faculty advisors will upload the position papers directly through the back end. So just make sure you have that to your faculty advisors. And for individual delegates, you can just submit it directly. Let's see, what else? So just, I know a lot of people generally like to ask me specific questions about Parley Pro. So I like to adhere by Parley Pro. in committee session, but if you are a first-time delegate or you're kind of new to it, I'm definitely not harsh about it. I think it's good to correct you just so that you learn going forward. But if you forget it, I'm not going to penalize you for it. I've been there. I started at some point in Model UN, and it was definitely a bit tricky to remember everything. If you can just give me 1 second, I'm going to log into the email that I told you to email questions in. Okay, I'm back. Apparently the chat feature has been fixed, which is pretty quickly. So if you want to ask me any questions, just directly chat them to me. I'd be happy to answer anything. So I think I was talking about Parley Pro. I'm definitely not very harsh about it, but I think that you should definitely learn it, brush up on it a little bit. But otherwise, I can definitely help. I have a lot of resources on me, kind of charts to help, kind of make you learn a little bit faster about the priority of points and motions and those kinds of things. So if you want to know anything more about that, you can definitely find those resources. Let me just read this question. I'm going to guess that by committee strength, you're referring to whether it's going to be like a novice committee or a more advanced committee. I don't think I can tell you that. I don't think it's been noted as a novice committee for sure, but I do know that crisis committees tend to have slightly more experienced delegates. But I think that SPECPOL should be a mix of novices and experienced delegates, if that helps answer your question. Is the country matrix going to be uploaded? Let me ask. I'll get back to you in the next couple minutes. Okay, apparently the country matrix has been uploaded and can be viewed on the dashboard. So if that helps answer your question, let me know if you have any other issues. And then I believe the next question was about the number of delegates in committee. Let me get back to you. Let me look at that real quick. Okay, I think someone emailed a question in about how to write working papers. So I think that there are some resources on the ILMUNC India website about just kind of working papers and resolutions and a little bit more about that. But I like to always do kind of like a rundown of a committee overview at the beginning of the first session, and I show you a sample working paper and a sample resolution from some of my old committees that I was a delegate in, and we kind of walk through that and talk about opening just like different clauses that should be used, operative clauses, and so. That's usually really helpful for delegates, and I don't think any more additional preparation is required than kind of like the run-through that I do in committee. So I think that that'll definitely get everyone pretty prepared for how to write working papers. And so the number of delegates in committee, going back to that question, I believe that there will be up to 70 or 80 delegates. So if that gives you kind of a sense of how big committee will be, that's kind of your answer there. Another question that I just got was, let's see, what should the division between time in moderated caucuses and unmods be? So I think in the beginning of committee, kind of right after we choose our topic that we're going to begin with, we should launch into some moderated caucuses for sure. I definitely don't want to give any odd mods at the start of committee, just because I think it's important for everyone to kind of voice their ideas and have a discussion at first before dividing into their different blocks and coming up with ideas and strategies and solutions. I think everyone should kind of be able to voice their stance and where their country lies on different opinions and different issues that we're going to be talking about. And then from there, you can decide what other countries have similar backgrounds and similar views to you, and then split up and decide how you want to work together. Please ask more questions. I'd be happy to answer as many as possible. I hope I'm answering them. I'm answering the question that you're asking. Let's see. Oh, another question. Okay, cool. What topics should we be talking about in particular? All right. I think I kind of went over this briefly, but so again, topic A is territorial integrity of the former Soviet republics, and B is maritime disputes. So I think, firstly, maybe with the former Soviet republic topic, I'd kind of like the committee to begin with just kind of bringing up all of the delegates to speed on current issues and what's been going on recently. Just talking about the different situations that have occurred recently regarding just territorial integrity, and I kind of would like to see delegates come up with not really solutions, but kind of how they want to approach the situation, what different what different assemblies within the UN they think should be involved with the dealing with these kinds of things. How much should the UN and other bodies such as nonprofits step in? Um, what about refugees and refugee crises? What should be done about that? Those kinds of things. Um, so if that helps answer for topic A, um, let me know if I could clarify anything else. And then for topic B with maritime disputes, um, I think this is really interesting just because there has been the whole United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea. And so that kind of was supposed to solve the maritime dispute issue by, kind of defining further the rights and responsibilities of nations with respect to their use of, oceans and different bodies of water and kind of like how they run, business and manage their natural resources and the portions of the ocean that they're given majority control of. But clearly that's not been working. And I think the statistic was that out of like the 427 boundary disputes, there's like 260 that remain unsolved today. So clearly there needs to be something different to be done. So I think that I'd like delegates to talk more about, um, again, what other bodies within the UN should kind of step in and intervene. What exactly do you think that they can do? Um, you can even mention IMO being brought in. I think that it would just be really interesting to see how this should be tackled. Um, okay, another question is, let's see, how long do you want resolutions to be? Some chairs don't really like long resolutions. I don't really like long resolutions either. But I mean, I think that I've had delegates in the past that submit really long resolutions because they think they look really impressive, but really there's not a lot of substance there. Um, and, all of the preamble and everything that they include just kind of lengthens the entire resolution. And I think that that's fine to have maybe for the final resolution if you think it's really necessary, but I think that I'm more interested in hearing your ideas and like the substance behind, um, what you've decided as like possible solutions. So if you can do that in a condensed form and be really concise about what you're trying to get across, I think that just helps committee move a lot faster. And I think it would help us run through maybe both topics if delegates want to do that fairly fast. Um, so. So that's basically my answer for length. As short as you can to get your point across, but I'm not telling you that it can only be like 3 pages or whatever. Okay, next question. How many working papers and resolutions will you accept? How many sponsors maximum will you allow? That's a good question. So I'm trying to think about past committees that I've run that are about the same size of 70 to 80 delegates. I think for working papers, I think usually like 5 or 6 is where I like to be working paper wise. And resolutions, I like to see some mergers happen between working papers. So I'm going to say maybe like 3. And then as to how many resolutions will I accept, I mean, I don't really accept it. It's you guys that vote on it. I'm always happy when all of the resolutions pass. I'm usually, unless, there's really big conflicts between resolutions, then that doesn't really work. But that's basically it for how many resolutions are possible. It's kind of, as many as you guys see fit and vote to pass. How many sponsors maximum will you allow? I don't really like to go above 7. I feel like everyone's work and ideas kind of get diluted after that, and you don't really know who's contributed the most. So I'm gonna say 7 is probably sponsor maximum. Maybe we could go up to 10 if, people really feel that everyone's contributed equally, but but that's kind of where I like to be normally. Let's see, what awards are given. So there's 1 best delegate, 1 outstanding, 2 honorables, and 1 verbal. And then will point of orders be entertained in committee? Yes. So that's that. Please let me know if there's any more questions. I really like this. It's so much better than me just talking. So thanks. These are nice. Okay, cool. What are awards criteria? Okay, so I don't really love delegates who are really the quintessential power delegates in that, they kind of take over everything and they write the whole draft resolution and they are the speaker for everything when they come up and present anything for their block, and they don't really let anybody else's ideas come across. I know that means that you're really powerful in committee, but I don't think that really lends to a good forum for debate and forum for kind of ideas to cross over. So I think that I prefer delegates. Well, that's kind of how I judge them for best delegate or not. Delegates who definitely get their point across, and whenever they come up during a moderated caucus, always present thoughtful ideas and don't just come up for the sake of talking. And let other people in their blocks contribute and make sure that they feel like they're a member of the block and a part of the team. And that's, I mean, obviously they have to be prepared and do their research ahead of time. And be confident when you go up and talk, and you speak at the podium. That's kind of what I look for when I judge a delegate for best or outstanding or honorable. But so that definitely does not mean that inexperienced and new delegates can't get awards, because I definitely I like to see people trying and getting a lot out of committee. That's what I look for in delegates when I'm judging. Let's see. So just going back to kind of general tips while I'm waiting on more questions, I believe that there should be some sort of tiling resource on the website, maybe, with just kind of some updated links of recent topics within our. Oh, new question. Sorry. Just with news articles and clippings from different news sources about things that relate to our topics. So you should definitely kind of browse through that if you don't have time to look up your own resources and your own news sources. Just because there will be a couple, but probably only 5 or 6. Oh, so you will be able to see that starting this weekend onwards. So don't worry about that, but you should definitely look into it and see when it is posted. Another question. How can a first-timer compete? All right, so I really like to help novice delegates just because, I was once a novice and I remember how it felt. So at the start of committee, like I said before, I usually do a run-through of, how I expect committee to run. I usually post or kind of share some resources, whether or not it's like printouts or handouts. Just kind of giving a run through of, how you go about asking questions in committee, which is, points and motions, which I can definitely go through a little bit on here, but I'll definitely go in and, the start of committee session and go over it as well. Just kind of what a moderated caucus is versus an unmoderated caucus. I think those are things that people generally catch on really quickly. So I wouldn't be too worried about it. Looking into preparation, I don't think that a novice will be any more unprepared than an experienced delegate content-wise. I think as long as you use all the resources present, read the background guides, kind of do your own research as well, you'll definitely be prepared. And you can always ask me any questions as chair. I'll definitely guide you through your first experience. I think it'll be really exciting for you, and I'm definitely not harsh about it at all. I really like to see people learn and enjoy Model UN. Let's see. Okay. Is the submission of position papers a necessity? Because it might push us into a corner and restrict us from changing our stance in case of situations like crises or another stronger country changing its stance towards us. Submitting position papers is a necessity, but that doesn't mean that you're forced into sticking with that throughout committee. You can definitely change your thoughts and your stance. That's how things work in the real world. Delegates are very much, swayed by what other delegates say, and that happens. So it's totally fine if you change your stance. For position papers, I'm just looking to see that you have some background on your country and you've done some research, and you wrote it in a thoughtful way. That's basically it. So I don't really mind you changing your stance in situations of crises or, another country. I in fact urge that. I think that's great. As for if position papers count for awards, it's definitely taken into consideration. I like to see that you've done your research before, and I like to see that you have a handle of kind of how to set up a paper. But really, I think that what you do in committee matters way more than position papers. But they're definitely all read by me, so don't worry about that. Another question. Suppose we have to submit a report to prove a point. Reports from which news agencies will be considered valid? I mean, I don't know if you want me to give you a list. But I feel like the ones that are not valid are fairly obvious about it. There's a lot of very polarized news sources out there and a lot of joke news sources. I would not recommend you going to The Onion, for example. Those are just not true. So, I personally really like the New York Times. I really like the New Yorker, but that's, different. I think that most sources are valid unless you question it. And if you question it, then definitely don't present it. So I would definitely just, whatever your news article that you have, just cross-reference it with another news source, see if it's, the same thing that's being discussed. If it is, then go for it, I kind of expect you guys to provide facts that are true. I'll definitely be writing some of them down just so I can fact check them a little bit myself. But yeah, no, sorry, I couldn't give you a better answer. I'm not really sure what news sources you use, but I'm sure they're all fine as long as you can cross-reference them. Let's see. Is there going to be a crisis? Well, so we're SPECPOL, so we're a GA committee. There are crises at ILMUNC India, but we're not one of them. But we'll have a lot of fun as a GA, so don't worry about that. Another question, let's see. If someone presents a wrong source, how do we correct them? Can we use a point of order? So point of orders are only for procedural errors that are done by me, really. I would prefer if you could kind of send me a note just saying like, hey, I think that this delegate used a faulty source, and just kind of, reiterating what they said and what the source was. But I would prefer if you sent me a note, and that would be the best way to deal with it, I think. Let's see. Are there any other questions? I'll wait for a bit. Okay, so I see another question was posted. That's great. About the midnight crises. I will get back to you in a second. So aren't points of orders for factual inaccuracy in the speeches of other delegates? Oh, sorry, I got an answer about the midnight crises. All right, so according to the SecGen, we're not looking at midnight crises to be something that we're planning for. And if something comes up, it'll be a surprise. And for the question of aren't point of orders for factual inaccuracy in the speeches of other delegates, no, they're not. Hope that helps. Okay, so what are the maximum or amount of speeches that we need to give, basically? That's a great question. Actually, there's no answer for that. I don't really like delegates who just come up for the sake of kind of ticking off, like I need to talk 5 times this session or whatever. I think that it's more important what you say when you come up rather than how many times you say something. I really can't answer that question because it really varies from delegate to delegate. Sometimes a delegate will come up, twice and say really, profound statements and a lot of really good substantive things about their stance. And then there'll be another delegate that will repeat the same thing like 12 times. And I definitely prefer the delegate that speaks twice but says things that are interesting and new and bring something different to the table. Okay, what do you do when you don't get a chance to speak in large committees? Oh, this one's easy. Just send me a note. I definitely take all of those into consideration, and I take the notes sent to me very seriously. So if you feel that I have been unfair about, calling on you, just let me know, and I will call on you kind of in the next round or so. So don't feel shy about doing that. I want everyone to speak and everyone to get their ideas heard and everyone to kind of practice, what it's like being on the podium if you don't have a lot of practice before that. So that's it. But usually I like to start this committee off, with the speakers list, obviously, and kind of go through as many people as possible, just so that everyone, has a chance to speak. So. There's one more question that I got. Let me just read it quickly. Okay, so if we're pointing out errors in someone's speech through a note, should we send it through the EB? So didn't know what EB was, but it's the dais or chairs and AD. But yes, so if you are pointing out an error in someone else's speech, be it factual or whatever, or you think it's personal attack or something, yeah, feel free to send it to me and I'll kind of address it as I see fit and talk to the ADs about what they think as well. So, just always send me notes if you have any issues. I love to answer them, and that's a good way to communicate with me, or if you want, me to kind of deal with something that's going on in committee. All right. Suppose we have to point out logical fallacies in the speech of other delegates. What would we have to do then? I would suggest that you kind of try to volunteer to speak in the next moderated caucus, or in the upcoming speaking time that we have, and kind of address it then. But I think that you should definitely try to not be, not have a personal attack on them. Remember that this is, a formal debate forum, so you should, I think you should send them a note before you attack them on the podium, but however you see fit. I think, if you can address it properly without attacking them personally, then go for it at your next speaking time. But otherwise, just maybe hint at it via a note. Let's see. I'm a first timer, and I wanted to know what kind of delegates are expected experience-wise. I believe that this committee will kind of be a mix of experienced delegates and novice delegates, so you're definitely not alone if you're a first timer. What kind of delegates are expected? There's definitely the kinds of, in committees that I've been part of in the past, there's generally, a crowd of kids that are super involved, like very, very involved in committee, which I love to see. And there's definitely a small group that's generally a little bit less involved and doesn't really speak in committee. Those are kind of the delegates. You generally have some slackers in the back that I always try to rope in and get them to speak a little bit, regardless of, what they have to say, even if it's not that different. But I think it's a good opportunity, and I definitely, highly expect everyone to at least try to participate for a bit. But experience-wise, you're going to find, the power delegates that I talked about before, and then, the first-timers that are a little hesitant, but will definitely get caught up to speed very quickly. So don't worry about that at all. Let's see. Okay, cool. So next question is, can we prepare other than the links given in the background guide? And from where exactly can we prepare? So as I spoke before about, the tile of resources that will be provided to you, that will be part of the dynamic background guide that ILMUNC India is doing this year. That'll be sent to you over the weekend, and it'll be some news outlet sources and news articles that I have curated, probably 4 or 5, that are relevant to either topic A or topic B. And these additional resources will be provided this weekend. But similarly, you can kind of just search the web for news articles that are relevant to either topic. I know they're both very topical, and you'll be able to find a lot of news pieces on it. It's just, which you think are relevant to your country and your stance, and which you don't. So that's basically all the advice I can give about preparing. Okay, which topic do you think is going to be discussed? Um, I mean, I think that's up to committee on which countries are present, um, and which topic people individually just find more interesting personally. Um, I I think both topics are really interesting, and I mean, I wrote the background guide, so I wouldn't mind either topic being presented. Um, I think that maybe topic A has been in the news a little bit more than topic B as of recent times, but I don't really think that everyone might have an opinion on that from every nation. So I can't really answer which topic I think is going to be discussed because it's up to you guys. I'd be happy for either, and I don't want to sway your direction towards, one or the other. How much weight is going to be placed on UNMODs? Um, so I definitely take UNMODs seriously, and um, they they definitely contribute to who I decide, becomes best delegate or honorable. Um, I like to see people, when they split up into their blocks during unmods. Uh, I'd like to see them participating and not doing other things, unrelated to committee. I like to see them interacting with delegates in a positive way, not trying to speak above anyone else and letting everyone share their ideas. Um, I like to see kind of people taking in charge and delegating to other delegates, not just doing everything themselves and saying, this is this is what I will do, this is what you will do, and kind of splitting up the work when it comes to draft resolutions. So I value unmods, and I think you should as well. They're a great time to break into blocks and discuss your ideas in a less, I guess, moderated manner. Let's see. Will committee groups be created as it can help in lobbying? Okay. Um, so I guess once the dynamic background guide with all of the different, resources, a couple different resources, is released this weekend, you can have discussions on that, but I definitely look unfavorably upon pre-conference lobbying. I like to see most of the conference work done in committee session or during unmods or kind of in between sessions, um, but I don't really like to see a lot of block formation pre-conference. So if that answers that, sorry. I will wait for a couple more questions, but feel free to continue. All right, so I think questions seem to be slowing down, so I'm going to be wrapping up. You can always email me at the SPECPOL email that I spoke about before. Um, so, oh, sorry, I got another question. I think the question is, where are you from in India? So, um, my parents are both from Andhra Pradesh originally, but my mom grew up in New Delhi and my dad grew up in Mumbai. So, hope that answers that one. Uh, oh, more questions. All right. So, I guess we're not done yet. That's fine with me. Okay, so I've been assigned a country that has a better part on topic B. So if I participate during that topic keenly and not on the first, um, will there be any marks or criteria deducted? So the way that I usually like to pick topics, and I think the way that most people do, is that there's usually like a 2 for topic A, 2 against topic A, 2 for topic B, 2 against topic B, and then everyone votes. Um, and so if you want to be a speaker for topic B and kind of get that topic done first or presented first, that would be a great way to get your point across that your country's really interested in this topic over the other. But even if your country isn't very much involved in topic A, I think that you can still be a really great delegate by kind of, not siding, but forming blocks with countries that, your country would support their stance on the topic if their country has a really strong stance. And I think you can still, come up with really good debate even if your country isn't really involved in it directly. I'm sure that your country has, cultural values or background in politics that can guide you towards, where your country would stand on this topic if you can't find a lot of information on it. Let's see. As for the press release, I mean, as a GA committee, I don't really think that GAs usually do press releases. That's something that is a more crisis committee thing to do. I mean, it's a lot of work to do a press release, so I think that we should just stick to the whole draft resolution and resolution working paper type presentation format of your ideas, so no to press releases. Okay, do you want solutions from our country or solutions for the world? I mean, I think those two things are not mutually exclusive. There can be solutions from your country that are for the world. I'm not really sure what that question is asking, but I don't think that your solution has to be pertinent to what's going on in your country. If that's, if it's unrelated to either of the topics, if that makes any sense. Let me know if I can clarify that. But, you can think as broad and narrow in your solutions as you need to be. I always love seeing something creative and different. But I definitely don't think that things should be only one country specific. I think they should be applicable to multiple situations that might arise given the topic. Let's see. Okay, so I guess this is about, how I tally points. So after a delegate makes a speech, will the EB give points for the speech and note it down, and then tally the points at the end of the day and give accolades accordingly. So usually how I do it is either myself or my AD will take notes on people who have spoken during mods and kind of go around during unmods and walk around and see, who's doing what and which members are really participating a lot and kind of how things are doing. So I won't give points during committee. I'll just kind of take notes on different delegates and what they said and how they presented it. And then after committee session, usually my AD and I will kind of sit down and talk over, look over our notes and see, who we think participated a lot, who we think, did really well even if they didn't participate a lot. And kind of give points accordingly. We'll kind of, rank our top, I think what it was, 1 best, 1 honorable, 2 verbals, and yeah, so we'll kind of rank maybe our top 10 from each committee session, and then by the end of all the sessions, we'll narrow it down. So that's kind of how, I definitely note down the speech and how I think you did. And also during unmods, I pay attention to who's, participating actively. but I don't give points during committee. I like to do that afterwards when I have time to sit down with my AD and talk about it. It's definitely not just me coming up with everything. I like to hear what other people that are also on the dais think. Let's see. Would there be any chance of me getting any kind of special mention or something? Because I really want my first experience. Quite nice. Well, Partha 6, this is your lucky day. Here on this webinar, I'm going to give you a special mention. I don't think I can do it in committee, so unless, I can't promise anything beforehand. I'm sure you will do great in committee, and I'm excited to meet you in person. Okay, how many speeches are we expected to give? I think I kind of talked about this before, but I don't really expect you to give any certain number of speeches. I don't have any chart in my head where I check off, that you need to speak 5 times or something. I really don't like delegates who count, because I never really counted until I became a chair, but I still don't really count because I never got into the habit. I kind of just mark off, who said what. I really look at the substance of what you said. So, as for, that's kind of moderated caucuses. On mods, I'd like to see you participating. I don't think people give speeches during on mods, so I don't really expect that, and I'd probably be confused by that if I saw it. So, on mods are so informal, so don't really bother too much about that. But there's really, really no expected number. I do not have any chart anywhere that I'm checking off. So please take that seriously. I promise I'm not lying to you. All right. So someone said, if we have questions about college and admissions, like the SAT and the ACT, can we talk to you outside of committee? Yeah, you totally can. I don't know how up to speed my knowledge about it will be, because it'll be based on, 4 years ago when I was a senior in high school and going through it. But I'll try to help you as best as I can. You can definitely talk to me outside of committee. Yeah, so feel free to come up. I'm always happy to answer questions about, my own process and just, college stuff in general. So yeah. Let's see, any more questions? I think we're nearing end time. All right. So this was really exciting. I'm so glad so many of you were able to watch. This has been recorded, so you can come back and look at it at a later date if you kind of forget some of the stuff that I said. I forgot some of the stuff that I said, so I'll probably rewatch it before committee just to make sure that, I stay consistent with what I'm saying. And I really do try to. So good luck with all of your preparation. Feel free to email me. I'd be happy to respond as best as I can. Again, you'll get the Dynamic Background Guide resources this weekend, so look out for that, and let me know if there's any trouble with that. But otherwise, I'm really excited to get to meet all of you, and you'll have a really great ILMUNC India experience, I'm sure. But good luck with your prep, and I will see you soon. Bye!